Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the WGLNA. I'm Joshua Gray, joined as always by Randall Holcomb. Tonight is the second day of qualifiers. We have one team that's made it through. We'll still see them later on tonight for the third matchup, as they will face the winner of the next two teams, which will be Simple Tankers versus a Doge squad. As a reminder, please follow us on Twitter at WGLNA, Facebook.com/WGLNA, and use that hashtag WGLNA when you send us your tweets so we can put them up on the broadcast. A lot of people tweeting that they were excited about the new format. They're seeing some constant action between these teams, and it's really fun to see.
Everyone I've talked to has only had positive feedback for it. They like the new format, they like the action, they like the conflict, and they like seeing how these teams handle all of that, and how they just one topic that I got to discuss with my dad even was the 7x42 format. And even he's impressed. He doesn't know that much about tanks. He watches the broadcast from sometimes, but tanks just kind of make sense, you know? They shoot at each other, and someone's going to win. And he appreciated that, and that was a cool thing to talk about.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. Share that with your family. I'm sure we're going to share lots of tank memories. The holiday season's just upon us here, and we look forward to everyone having a great holiday season. We know we will be at the WGLNA. I'm sure we'll be tweeting out fun pictures and stuff.
And the sweet deals on gold.
That's right. That's right. You definitely want to check those out as well. Speaking of gold and prizes, we have the betting bot continually happening throughout each of the matches. Now, what we've changed is that instead of predicting the match outcome, you get to bet on every single battle. Betting will begin right before the battle starts, and the betting will close for that battle once the battle begins, obviously. Everybody starts with 10 points. If you need more information, you can go to WGLConnect.com, or you can ask the people in Twitch chat. Hey, if you're not into betting, you're not into the Twitch chat, that's fine. You can go ahead and hit us on full screen. Make sure to hit that follow button down below so you know we're going live, and you can know our schedule as well. We'll post our schedule on our page. This week is the qualifiers. Next week will be the second qualifier. Then after that, we will announce the dates for Season 5. And a huge thank you to everybody that's tuning in right now. They're enjoying the matches so far. And a big shout out to everybody on the East Coast that's home, probably already had their dinner, and enjoying some World of Tanks action. These two teams, Randall, are no strangers when it comes to qualifiers, but at least no strangers when it comes to World of Tanks, except for Simple Tankers. They are a stranger when it comes to qualifiers.
They're definitely no stranger when it comes to playing at a high level, though. They should perform incredibly well. There were parts of their play yesterday that made me wonder what level they were playing at, but with a lineup like this, I'm expecting great things. Doge Squad, though, is a team we've seen time after time, and now we know these names. And I'm looking forward to see if they can take on Simple Tankers, probably the top contender in this qualifier.
Bobo, if you put him in a T-32, he will survive. We have seen it. Also, Doge Squad has told me that they're working on a Tier 10 soundboard, and so once they release that, we'll go ahead and send that link to everybody involved. Battle number 1 between Doge Squad and Simple Tankers. What do we have for tanks?
It looks like we've got 5 RU-251s and 2 ISs for Simple Tankers. That was easy. On the other side, Doge Squad, the defenders, the blue team, a 5100, 2 T-32s. Bobo is one of those T-32s. Josh, looks like good things. Pershing, 1390, RU-251, and a T-37. Now, what will the opening move be, and how is Simple Tankers looking to play this out? ISs are an interesting choice. I'm wondering why not T-29s and why ISs.
Possibly due to the nature of the map as well. They're not sure what team is going to bring what type of tank or what type of strategy, since this is a new map in our map pool. So they want to play maybe a little bit safe with those ISs. They're not the fastest tanks, but they can get into the fray if they need to, and that might be the case with Zach Kumi and Kraft Lawrence here. Bobo for the win, and the T-32 is going to be hanging back, while the Pershing, Turkey Vulture, and Chili Coyote in his T-32 will be the front man, the recon for their team. And Turkey Vulture has definitely spotted these ISs, but not the rest of Simple Tankers. Notice how closely they are hugging the side of the map.
Yeah, and now as I look at the map, I am saying I think I like the IS more. The T-29, I can see how it might not fit in the terrain as it is right now, but this is a crazy blitz. All of the RUs are just blitzing into the backfield with the ISs taking the attention away.
And Turkey Vulture is pulling back from the ISs and trying to draw fire on the press, on the blitz coming from Simple Tankers. That's going to allow these ISs to fire into Matsu Soul on a pose. That 5100 is low. And as soon as all his shots are out, either out of the fight or he's going to die. 343 in that last volley. Rorold is hit for 423. Matsu Sol is down. Doge Squad loses a tank. Simple Tankers is now on 2 positions, but the ISs are in trouble. The 1390 from COD and Turkey Vulture are going to get behind these tanks, but Kraft Lawrence and Zakum, no, they're going to get behind him. Zakum is able to stay alive. Kraft Lawrence takes the brunt of that force, and he goes down.
But there is backup. Tofu Smurf is here on the flank. Zakum should be able to stay alive a little longer as Wallhacks and Executus are moving back north as well. Pub Whisperer down south has a good angle on Bobo and Chili Coyote. This is a strong split, and they're playing it exceptionally well. I love watching the way this is all playing out.
Wallhacks in the 250 in the 251 jumps over the hill, falls back, and then accidentally rams into Zakum in the front in the IS. He's probably looking towards Turkey Vulture when he was moving over the hillside. Now look at this, concentrated fire coming from Simple Tankers. This is that brawl mode they were suffering from yesterday that was not working out, and they're bouncing a number of shots against that Pershing, but he finally falls thanks to Turkey Vulture. These 4 tanks are going to press forward. Angry White Guy is going to be the point man a little bit further south on the hill. He's going to focus on the lower tank, the 1390. He goes down. T-37 tries the body block for the T-32. Bobo is in trouble. He's going to be the next one to fall as they focus on the T-32. He goes down. All these tanks from Simple Tankers are now going to surround what's left of the Doge squad. Simple Tankers have only lost 1 tank, and that was Kraft Lawrence in the IS. 1 tank left alive for Doge. Simple Tankers won this decisively.
Incredibly so. The blitz was so risky, but they timed everything very well.
The impeccable type of play coming from Simple Tankers in this junction right now, all right? Throwing all the how can we assess this out the window, they learned from yesterday. They learned from yesterday, and that's the most important step any team can take, to learn from your mistakes, to learn what was going wrong for your team, to change it, and to change it swiftly and accurately in order to be prepared for your next match. We saw a great engagement. We saw the ISs used in a function that we really haven't seen before, obviously because we haven't seen these tanks in tank lineups, but it worked. The only time that it didn't work is when they started to get surrounded, but that's when Simple Tankers made the audible and closed in together as a team.
I loved how they started the match, setting the tempo. I think that's where it started in their favor. The IS is grabbing some attention and then very cleverly timed with the RU-251s. You can see why it's such a potent tank. In a swarm like this, dealing incredible amounts of damage. And the ISs, yes, they did fine. They did very well for what they were expected to do, but those RU-251s, I'm watching them just obliterate tanks. And the 5100, I think that was just a kind of a cherry on top for him, a little treat, because it was in such a position that when they decided to blitz down the one line, it was right there, no cover. And in order to back out, you notice this, he had to expose his side to the ISs, who were then able to do plenty of fire. And just after that, you saw this little flex back and forth with the RUs, who were able to cover the ISs and keep them alive long enough and keep the threat there that Doge Squad wasn't able to get control back.
Doge Squad still performed as a team. They still performed well, but it was a team that had been outplayed from the strategy, from the map positioning of where they engaged. This has been, I have to say, a testament of Simple Tankers practicing, because that was a great beginning for their battle. However, this is a best of 8. Still plenty of things can happen. Doge Squad showed us that they are a tighter, brighter, shinier team compared to previous qualifiers. Let's see if that's the case tonight as well. What do we have for tanks in Battle 2?
Complete change-up from Simple Tankers, who are the attackers. They've brought a 5100, IS-3, 2 T-32s, 2 RU-251s, and a T-37 this time. Oh, yeah, that is really crazy. Completely different. Doge Squad, 2 5100s, 3 T-32s, a 1390, and a T-37. Different approaches this time. Bringing an IS-3 to this map is very interesting. Leading the way, of course, I'll assume he's leading the way. Executus and Pub Whisperer are going to go out on a flank with Kraft Lawrence. Oh, Kraft Lawrence will be joining Executus, and Pub Whisperer, mid-scout. That's what it is. He's watching to see if there's any east side movement from Doge Squad that they can exploit, and he'll also be able to give some cover fire and alternate angles. But this is a split from Simple Tankers, and there is some weakness in that. If Doge Squad finds it, they can capitalize.
That magical forest is a place of many of my tanks not coming back for that Forest playing this game. But look at this press getting a little bit closer between Doge Squad and Simple Tankers. And up top, the T-32s, you got Rick Owens up there along with Bobo. Bobo takes a hit, but Rick Owens is able to land a shot against wall hacks. Tofu Smurf from further away in the 5100 is trying to do as much damage as he can to those T-32s, but that's also an indication to the rest of Doge Squad that Tofu Smurf will not be in a fight if they're able to aggress against these T-32s and IS-3s behind cover from the 5100. They don't want to get trapped there.
His angle is very dangerous, though, and while they do have to consider it, there are some weaknesses to it. They can get right in close, use some of the close buildings as cover, and box out 4 tanks from Simple Tankers and to allow them to focus on these meaty, heavy tanks, the T-32s and IS-3.
That T-37 housing Hippo from long range, it will land a couple shots here. And it looks like everybody's moving up. Rural from behind the 5100, along with everybody else, is going to push forward. And this is where Tofu Smurf can't help. They're behind that cover of those buildings, and so the surround is going to happen against Simple Tankers. And as you mentioned before, Randall, splitting up could be a weakness, and this is where the weakness is prevalent for Simple Tankers. Doge Squad knew they could isolate these tanks. They went in for the kill, and now 3 tanks are down compared to 2 for Doge Squad. Can Simple Tankers still turn it around, though? They still have that 5100 that can play that long-range quarterback, if you will, of landing these long-range shots to keep these guys pinned and to do significant damage as they try to set up a counter-engagement against the rest of Simple Tankers.
I don't think they're going to be able to do it very well. Executus has gone out into the open, I think a little bit shaken, not making the perfect moves, and now the light tanks are exposed, and that's where we could see some problems. Now, Tofu is taking down 1 tank. He shouldn't have enough shells to really get many more kills before having to go on a long reload. In that time, Doge Squad could close the distance, but mobility is key here. Executus and Pub Whisperer need to utilize that in order to keep the distance and take down the 1390 COD. If COD goes down, there's 4 minutes left. They can work with that. Simple Tankers can still win, but Doge Squad has done an exceptional job at finding the healthiest tanks and just cutting them out of this battle.
Rick Owens could not get that last shot against Executus, who was able to flee in the RU-251. He is very low, and Doge Squad knows it. Bobo's low, but he is the T-32, and the power of this type of tank is to fight at a long distance in a hold-down position. Because of that, he does not have to necessarily brawl into the magical forest. They can play defensive because they are the defenders. Simple Tankers needs to reassess, regroup, and figure out a different game plan to get behind these tanks, because if they try an all-out assault up front, they're going to get mowed down by the firepower.
Yeah, and Doge Squad can sit back. They can defend. Simple Tankers must get the kills and they must get the cap. And they only have 3 minutes to do so with a slightly inferior force. Health points wise, mobility is certainly a factor in all this, which could bring Simple Tankers back, but Doge Squad can very easily defend against that. They've got the T-32s, they can get the high ground, and it should be not too much of a problem after that. The move is obvious from Simple Tankers. They're going to go north and then they're going to go west. That's why you see Chili Coyote watching that direction now.
4 against 4. The tough move to make is, for both sides, for Doge Squad, how many tanks do we devote to each flag cap? Which direction are they going to come from? North, from north to south, it's about 6 different points. You know, you come from when you're just straight east, but there's also the southern flag cap. It's totally different compared to 7x42,
Yeah.
where you had the 1 flag cap in the base.
This is the late game. This is where improvisation is really what you need to win. It's going to be who can improv better and who can respond better.
Shot from Chili does not connect to the T-37, but Kraft hangs back. Not able to scout ahead, but the Pub Whisperer is RU-251, able to get maybe 1 tank spotted where Chili was for an exact location. He's going to fall back. Time is not on Simple Tanker's side. They have to make a move at 2 minutes. And at this time, it looks like they have to kill all the Doge Squad. Flag cap may not be a safe choice based on the multiple resets that can happen from long range from these tanks.
No, cap's not an option. Not going to work. They have to get the kills. They have to move in one by one, get all of these tanks, but there's so many hit points on the field right now that I don't think Simple Tankers is going to be able to do it. T-32 is just consistent firing while taking all of that damage should be enough to win this out. It's going to be Simple Tankers, you know, incredibly small single-digit % chance to win.
Pub takes a hit. Executus was not prepared to see that T-32. He takes a big hit for 251. Rick Owens is now going to press against Executus. However, Executus lands a track shot, and Rick Owens misses that shot against the RU-251. Oh, bounce coming from Executus, and now the press from Doge Squad.
5100, Tofu is going to deal significant damage, but Pub Whisperer does not have enough hit points to survive, and he goes down. Tofu is left alone.
Tofu gets the kill against Bobo. Chili Coyote and Cod still alive and still with plenty of hit points. Tofu Smurf, not the case. He is low, and he is also low on shots, and they go down. Doge Squad ties it up 1-1.
All right, there we go. Doge Squad able to make a solid defense. They just had to bring that heavy lineup, and their opponent didn't have... maybe that's a cheese strat, you could call their first one. They just caught them off guard, something they couldn't expect, and they weren't set up to work with. A dice roll, if you will, but a good bit of strategy in there, but a dice roll all the same. If those RU-251s from the first battle had been in this one, I don't think that strat would have worked. It was a heavy lineup, those T-32s able to just stonewall, and you can see how when Simple Tankers tries to bring a heavy lineup, it didn't work out because I don't think they took into account how separated they were. Their light tanks were way over in the east, and they needed those. Their 5100 was slightly cut off, and I believe reloading. 3 heavy tanks were isolated, and when you can bring all 5 to bear, it's a pretty one-sided fight.
It is a very one-sided fight, but that pocket on that map where Tofu Smurf was located was great for landing a couple sniping shots to the opening into the flag cap. Not necessarily on the flag cap, but the opening into the flag cap.
The Overwatch hill.
The Overwatch hill.
Yeah.
We'll call it that, the Overwatch hill. I could see it ahead of time, what was going to happen. Tofu Smurf, not in the fight, too far away. They'll know that from the T-32 taking damage, and from there, they press in behind those buildings and get the kill. Defensive place against Tofu. I mean, you're going to take shots from the tanks right in front of you, but Tofu Smurf can't hit you. And if that 5100 is not in the fight, you have an overmatch. They overmatched them, they got the kills, and they pulled away from that section, but still had to cover the houses and still use the hills. Smart heads-up play, decision-making play, but you talked about that improvisation at the end. Simple Tankers needed to do it a lot faster.
And they needed something incredibly creative. Their opponent predicted their moves.
Battle number 3 between this tied-up series. What do we have for tanks, Randall?
All right, looks like Simple Tankers is going to throw it up one more time. 2 IS-3s, T-32, 3 RU-251s, and a T-37. They're maybe going back towards those RUs a little bit. This is similar to what we saw yesterday on Prohorovka, where they have a squad of RU-251s, and then they have their heavy tanks in the middle. On the other side, Doge Squad, the red team attacking now, has 3 IS-3s, a Pershing, RU-251, T-29, and an M41 Walker Bulldog. I'm interested to see how the T-29 is going to perform. I've been waiting to see if someone's going to bring it and how effective it is at this level of play.
Tables have turned. Simple Tankers on the defense in the blue, Doge Squad in the red, spawning up type as the attackers. Simple Tankers, if you can take a battle as an attacker, which they were able to do last night to get the win, it's their first victory so far, and that really, really can help with morale because you have that defender position, you have that defender advantage, right? A lot of people will say that, a lot of teams will say that, but that attack definitely worked the first time. And now shots fired into Housing Hippo in the IS-3. This IS-3 train's taking some significant damage from Tofu Smurf. Executus is able to land a shot, it looks like, against Rick Owens, and the spread from Doge Squad is not as wide compared to the Simple Tankers from the first time they attacked. It's going to be a bit of a corner game from the IS-3s, and the T-32 and the T-37 hanging back behind. Pub Whisperer falls back a little bit as Matsuso and Rick Owens are straddling that hillside using the T-29 in a hold-down position.
Although with just how steep that hill is, I don't think a T-29 is going to be very effective.
No,
almost no tank. And interesting, he's brought the 90 mil, which I believe he's going to load gold rounds, which are just...
and he takes a big hit from Angry White Guy, who was ready for him. Bounce off the shot to the right. Takes a hit for 350 in that hole. You mentioned it. He had no shot until he was overexposed.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this position doesn't use the T-29 as effectively as you'd hope to. After some changes to this map, I think making those hills steeper has increased the difficulty of playing an American tank. It used to be much easier because the hills were softer and you could just roll up with a T-29 and all day just get hull down, fire on your opponents.
The trio of 3 IS-3s Not committing around the corner yet. Still straddling and waiting for more information or a call from the commander. Simple Tinkers are ready, both at the short range for the brawl with their IS-3s, but also the long range fight. An Angry White Guy in that T-32 is not allowing the Pershing or the T-29 from the Doge squad to occupy that hill. Wallhacks creeps up above, but he's going to get punished. Zach Koom is not in a proper position in order to trade fire. Wallhack's still alive. Now Zach Koom gets a hit and gets Housing Hippo and falls back.
All right, that is exactly what they needed. A little bit of damage. Doge squad could finish off Wallhacks if they can, and then take their numbers to win this. They're losing on hit points right now. You can see Cod is half, Rigoan's half, Matsu Sol half, Housing Hippo half. But they've got Bobo and Chili. If they can find some tanks, isolate them and focus, we might be able to see Doge squad take this one on attack. But Simple Tankers is looking solid right now.
So between the different positionings of Doge squad here, they are low on that HP in comparison.
Pub Whisperer versus Rolled, and we could see Cod coming to back that up, but there is Kraft Lawrence to the east who could help out, and he is putting some fire. Pub Whisperer takes down Cod.
Nice shot from Executus, covering their teammate Pub Whisperer, who's peeking around that corner. It's defensive aggression. They're still, dancing back and forth between these spots, but they're not overexposing themselves. I say that as Pub Whisperer rounds the corner here against Rolled. Rolled can't get the shot yet, neither can Pub Whisperer, but there's a shot from his buddy, the T-37 Kraft Lawrence. Pub Whisperer can move in and get the kill, and he gets it. He's going to fall back just in time for the Pershing. Matsu Sol to miss.
And now Kraft Lawrence looks like he's going to move for a better position, firing on Matsu Sol. It doesn't hurt a lot, but he fires so quickly that Matsu Sol may not be able to get away. He's going to need cover, and one more shell might be able to do it. Oh, not quite.
Needs one more. Can he grab it?
He backs up a little.
Gets it. Kraft Lawrence, the T-37.
Nice shot. That's going to be a Pershing pickup for that tier 6.
Well done by Kraft Lawrence. Still's not taking any damage yet. 2 minutes and 25 seconds for Doge squad to assault this flag cap. They're down 3 tanks. Simple Tinkers has not lost a single tank in this battle. They're looking good on the defensive side.
They're playing a strong defensive game. They're not doing too much outside of what is a standard defense on this map. They take the right cover, they hold the corners, they created the crossfires, and they have the flexibility to respond to any threat. And now, with damage from Tofu Smurf, it's getting more and more difficult for Doge Squad to feel their opponent out. Anytime they want to peek to maybe play a corner game with Zakum, Tofu's going to pop up, and he's going to put his shells right into the front of one of those IS-3s.
Zakum waiting around that corner for any of these IS-3s to poke up. No tanks from Simple Tinkers are going to fully commit on the hill. They could all pounce on them, but they don't want to leave any of their flanks exposed. They don't know if all the tanks are there. Well, you know what? Wallhacks probably has spotted them all. They probably have seen all the tanks, and they are there. 1:20.
They know enough. They have Pub Whisperer on the east side of this hill. He can see if they go anywhere farther than the 3-line east. They can tell if they're retreating at all. But they don't need much more than that. Their opponent has revealed their position and they're pinned. They don't have many options, and I think they're just trying to wait for an opportunity or for Simple Tankers to make some sort of mistake. But Simple Tankers is making the right moves. Pub Whisperer is moving into a flanking position. He's going to be able to put shells into these guys, farm up a little damage, and that should close it out. There's the cross shot. Pub Whisperer has a good distance, good camo, might not be even spotted in this.
Shot fired against Rick Owens does not penetrate, does not hit. He backs off, and Doge Squad looks like they're going to try to go for it with 30 seconds left to prove a point.
Going out and around on Zakum. Shots fired from the RUs in the west. Good crossfire. Zakum just backs off by taking 386. Not bad. Executus and Tofu can take a few hits. And Wallhacks, he'll be fine sitting in the back lines. Angry White Guy is going to take down Rick Owens in a second. Or that's Kraft Lawrence.
A T-37 is doing some work. We're going to have to check out the stats on that tank at the end. Angry White Guy is going to push up. 3 seconds left on the clock. Around the corner. A couple more shots for some damage. And that's it. That's going to be a win for Simple Tankers because they're on the defensive side. And that is going to put them up 2-1. I want to take a look at the stats of that T-37, Randall. That was impressive coming from this tank. 10 for 15 on shots fired and penetration. Did 1,048 damage and only took 1 hit.
Solid. That's good play. He was out of the way. Now, the strategy that his opponents brought, the strategy that Doge Squad brought to the field, allowed him some flexibility and kept him safe. All he had to do was stay to the east where there were no tanks, and he got some free damage here and there. But you can see how even a tank that's a tier 6 can do damage comparable to many of the tier 8s. The tier 8s didn't even get the opportunity to deal as much damage as him.
Angry White Guy at 1649 was 6 for 8. Pub Whisperer, who was above Kraft Lawrence, was 7 for 12 at 1257. The T-37 by Kraft Lawrence was going toe-to-toe with enemy tier 8s. Impressive play so far from a tank that doesn't do a whole lot of damage per shot, but it does enough damage on the battlefield of reconnaissance, of speed, and
DPM's good.
And plugging right into the sides of those tanks, or the rear of those tanks.
Yeah, it's kind of like the old Chaffee as far as its cannon's effectiveness. I can't remember if he has exactly the same gun, or if I don't think it has the same exact parameters as far as performance on the tank, but it's effective. Yeah. It can deal a surprising amount of damage. Battle
number 4 between Doge Squad and Simple Tinkers will begin in a matter of moments. It will be on Cliff. Moravanka. Last time we'll see Moravanka in this series because it is attack, attack, defense, defense. Then we'll switch to Himmelsdorf after this. Randall, what do we have for tanks?
For tanks, IS-3, 2 T-32s, the 3 RU-251s again, and the T-37, Kraft Lawrence. He's back in it. On the other side, Doge Squad, the attackers, the red team. AMX 5100, 2 1390s, 2 RU-251s, 2 M41 Walker Bulldogs. They're going for mobility this time. And we're going to see, are they going to imitate the strategy of Simple Tankers or pull something else entirely? They are going to the east at the beginning.
Into that magical forest. Walker Bulldog, Rick Owens, is heading further on the eastern side, but they are going together as a complete team.
And Kraft Lawrence will be passive spotting in the T-37, watching the east. He does have a good angle on the cap, but his direct east is a little bit blind. There's plenty of bush cover. It's possible Doge Squad could sneak a tank, one of the M41s, right up close to him before he's discovered. And Kraft Lawrence could go down, but it might be a good exchange in favor of Simple Tankers.
For that opposite approach that Simple Tankers brought, and deciding to focus on the other flag on the map instead of around those hillsides. The hillside's a great defense for Simple Tankers, but a lot of this open terrain here, but also the open terrain from the Magical Forest long-range fire could prove difficult for Simple Tankers to deal with if they don't approach this area of the map correctly, using cover when they can, using the defilades.
We've got a little blind fire coming in from Doge Squad. They may be spotted, and I see a shift coming from Simple Tankers. Their layout moving to defend against a southern attack. Executives shifting south. Kraft Lawrence, I believe, has spotted Cod. It's the most reasonable tank. Good angle on him. Housing Hippo and Chili Coyote are blind firing, looking for that passive tank, but they're a little bit off right now. Oh, is there return blind fire?
There is blind fire coming from Housing Hippo and Chili Coyote. They're close to Kraft Lawrence, but not in the same quadrant. Same direction, but a couple tank lengths away. Cod has moved up in the Walker Bulldog, close to the house, trying to scout anything possible with those optics. Fires into Kraft Lawrence. I can't tell if it's blind fire or if he's able to see
That's
him.
blind fire. That's blind fire. Kraft Lawrence is taking a risk here and stopping. If Cod noticed that the shell did not impact dirt and noticed that it hit something and it just seems to vanish, that indicates that there's a tank there. And Cod has made 2 hits now. That may be enough to verify that there's a tank there. Crossfire would then allow you to kind of start triangulating that position. You see where shells are going to start missing and hitting. Kraft Lawrence has very few options. He can begin to run, but he'll likely get spotted. He can shift his position within the bush and perhaps avoid taking more blind fire, and they'll think he's escaped or that he wasn't there and it was just them not paying enough attention. I like the option of sitting here and just staying cool and calm. He may be able to hold on. His opponents might not have noticed their shells vanishing and not impacting dirt, in fact, impacting a tank that they couldn't see. Looks like they've decided there was no tank there.
There
COD's not continuing to fire. That's my judgment.
it's a lot of holding patterns happening for the Doge squad to decide when they will attack, who is going to go on the flag cap to draw out Simple Tankers, what positions will they take to get that fire first rather than to take fire first, and will they have enough time to execute this plan with 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Hossing Hippo heading back towards the eastern side of the map and then cruising back with the rest of his team. Roll. And that 1390 could be the first contact between these teams. You know, the T-37 took some damage earlier on. Time is ticking away for the Doge squad to make a move. Simple Tankers is lying in wait, but the defensive stride for them to move to the other flag cap could be the opening that Doge squad needs to land those hits from long range.
Opening, closing. It's 2 minutes 30 seconds left. They don't have time
No, they don't.
for this is no longer opening. This is past even the mid game. This is opening setup, but not an engagement Doge squad needs. They could be using this battle as more of a time to collect their thoughts and prepare for the next.
They don't want to assault anymore on Moravanka.
Yeah.
They decide that, hey, we want to take this fight to the next map, which is Himmelsdorf. That is understandable, but you got nothing to lose at this moment.
Yeah.
When you are the attacker, you are either going to destroy all of your enemy tanks, or you're not going to win.
Yeah, I'm expecting that they're not shaken. This is Doge squad, a team that's rather experienced. My expectation of their mentality right now is that they're not so much shaken from their losses to Simple Tankers. It is 2-1, but it's not that bad. It's something you can recover from, and there is an engagement.
Let's take a look at the movement here as Tofu Smurf cruises up first. It takes a hit for 255 from Roral from long range, and now the fight begins as Rick Owens is trying to stay alive here against Pub Whisperer. Pub Whisperer lands a shot against the side. Pub Whisperer falls. 15 seconds left on the flag cap for Doge squad as they continue to scan for targets to block, and Rick Owens falls. COD still in the mix. The Walker Bulldog from long range, though, is looking for any backside hits he can get against the enemy tanks. Simple Tankers adjusting. Zakum moving in closer. And COD gets the shot against Kraft Lawrence from long range. World still in the fight in that 1390. And more resets are happening for the tanks that are still on the flag cap as Simple Tankers continues to hold the line here against the Doge squad.
All right, and that's it. That is enough resets. Doge squad cannot cap. They must get all of the kills, and Zakum is out of position. He could go down, and then maybe the T-32s can be taken down. There are enough tanks, and that's enough damage on the field. 1390s are going to need all the shells. They need to reload very soon so that they have enough time to begin killing Angry White Guy and wall hacks, but I think they're losing momentum right now.
Oh, there goes Zakum. Chili Coyote kept Bobo from taking any harm. 22 seconds left on the board. Angry White Guy, along with wall hacks, still maintaining their presence next to this flag cap, and wall hacks in his T-32 is not going to let Rural touch that flag cap. Rural's going to take a big hit to the front, and wall hacks will parade away
2-1
in a victory for Simple Tankers. They are up 3-1 against the Doge squad. Tough fight. It really is a tough fight, especially with these teams trying to figure out the best movement attacking-wise. In this sense, Simple Tankers definitely won out when it came to strategy. However, defending is going to be different on Himmelsdorf, and so will attacking for both these teams. So it's still anybody's match between these two powerhouse teams, really.
Yeah.
I mean, a Doge squad I have found to be very impressive. The more and more we see them play, every time they join one of the qualifiers, they look better and better.
They really do. And I think, well, I hope, I should say, that Doge squad took the extra time, that battle, all of that, and just used it to prepare for Himmelsdorf, recognizing perhaps they brought the wrong lineup and they didn't quite have the right opener to really win this one out. They could have if there were more time, but with 7 minutes, you have to play the clock right as the attacker. You can't afford to waste time like Doge squad did. I think they decided that was a non-win condition and that they should really sit back and think about the next match and work around trying to break their opponent down in the meantime.
Well, Himmelsdorf is a different beast altogether.
Yeah.
There's so much open territory on Moravanka, and then there isn't, in a sense of you have to know where those buildings are that can block the pathway of shots, that building may not necessarily be right next to your tank. You may not be physically in the village, but if there's a village between you and your opponent over in the Magical Forest, that's all the cover you need. And that is the proper way to execute and move on that map, but also that defensive stance with all those hills, like 3 different mounds right there, is very, very ideal for the defenders, especially on Moravanka. Now, looking at Himmelsdorf, though, we haven't seen a lot of hill play in a sense of a lot of contests or contention up on the hill itself. Mark in that T-37 is able to dodge a number of shots that we saw yesterday. It was one of my favorite moments that happened. But I want to see what Doge Squad has up their sleeves, and I feel if they push Simple Tinkers into more brawls, that is where it's going to be a different story.
Possibly, but where are they going to put those brawls? It's probably going to be in the defensive positions in the northwest. You're going to see defenders taking up control of this area in general. You've got that northwest area, and then the attackers have to figure out which direction they're going to come from. Now, there are a few strats which we could see a fight in around Bravo 8, but most fights are taking place in that northwest quadrant. It's a matter of the approach, and the most common we're going to see is an attack along the D line.
We have seen that very, very often, commonly. When you put it all together, what happened on Himmelsdorf, but we have to remember that we saw teams of different natures, teams of different skill levels, and when teams were fumbling around on the western side, south of the train station, and some teams tunneling right through, pushing right through into the firefight, into the crossfire, and still getting a win. We saw some crazy stuff yesterday. Yes. I don't think we'll see the same thing tonight with these two teams, but I hope that Simple Tankers has the brawls down, and I hope Doge Squad is able to figure out what's exactly happening in the first 30 seconds of the map.
Well, their lineup should say a few things about their plans. We've got 3 5100s, 2 IS-3s, an IS, and a T-29 for Simple Tankers, who are the defenders to start Himmelsdorf. Doge Squad will be in on the attack. They have a single 5100, 4 IS-3s, and 2 Tiger 1s. That's an alpha lineup for Doge Squad. They're looking to find a tank, destroy it, and move on. Whereas Simple Tankers are set up to defend. That T-29 should work well in a hold-down position. Where will Executus be going? He's going to be defending the southern cap, I believe alone. And he's got some optics on there. Yeah, he's set up to defend. That's his job, alone, defending. There's a little backup nearby with Zakun, but you've got the majority of this 5100 group supported by an IS-3 going towards the hill.
And the movement from Doge Squad is on the west. All tanks have moved over to the western side. They are split on their approach, though, as 2 of the tanks are still heading up the 4 line, while Housing Hippo, we see on the screen right now, in the 5100, is hugging those train tracks and looking for an opportunity to do some damage to the defending Simple Tankers. Simple Tankers up 3-1. If they win the next 2 battles as the defenders, they have a good shot at doing it. They will be joining us in the Gold League. Doge Squad is climbing a hill. It's a tough hill to climb.
They really have something to beat. They have to win so many matches in a row right now that I don't think that it's possible against Simple Tankers. Simple Tankers is an incredibly good team, one of the best in America. And Doge Squad, you're going to have to bring something fancy to win on these attacks. You can't just win on the defense here because their beginning attack, and attack is difficult. But they must get a win on the attack in order to continue this series.
Brought some Tiger 1s who displayed some blind fire to no effect on the western side, and they're still hugging this corner. It's times like this, Randall, that teams have to have a plan. And right now, for them trying to scout a tank, that is fundamentally okay for 30 seconds. But if you spend 30 seconds more trying to gather information, that's too much time.
Yeah, we're into the range of the mid-game, and it's wasting a little bit of time. Executus is firing down range, and he's even gotten a hit on COD. COD has taken a little damage there, and that is nice for Simple Tankers. I don't think he was spotted, but blind fire, you can afford to just throw shots out there sometimes. And even with this minimal defense that Simple Tankers has thrown up, Doge Squad, doesn't have enough information to know that. They don't know how weak of a defense there is out there, and that Pub Whisperer, Tofu, and Angry White Guy, the big damage on Simple Tankers is actually on the opposite side of the map.
Roro takes a hit for 350. Moving up front, Chili Coyote right behind him in the IS-3. This is a pain train, and it has no brakes for the Doge squad. Moving up closer to the flag cap, they could either press those tanks on the flag or try to screen the cap, but Simple Tankers knows what's up. They change their IS-3 positions to get more towards the western side. The IS-3s smartly hug the buildings to the right. We see only one tank covering, and COD gets annihilated. T-29 for a big hit.
Executus is dealing so much damage from his hold-down position. He has a great vantage. And COD nearly dead. He's also lowered other tanks, the IS-3s, just a little bit here and there. 5100's taken a hit from him. At the end of this, I think Executus might be looking at an MVP for damage.
Matsu Sol is trying to cover any type of movement from the southern side. He's going to engage upon a tank very, very quickly as two of the heavies are moving to the very south to get behind these tanks. Trying to use this dead husk of a teammate to block a lot of these shots can be effective for the moment, but how long will it last? As the IS and IS-3 from Wallhacks move in for a pincer attack against these three tanks trying to hold the line. Matsu Sol is there, though. Lands a good hit against Unknown One, but Pub Whisperer in the 5100 wants to clean this up. Another shot against Coyote. And there we see the two tanks to the south. Tofu Smurf and Angry White Guy landing more hits into Rick Owens and Rorold. And they are moving away from the flag cap. They are in deep trouble. And boom! Rick Owens and Rorold are down. Pub Whisperer and IS, Unknown One, move up against Matsu Sol. Shot fire from Pub Whisperer on the move. Doesn't get the
Bounces
kill.
and misses all over the place for Pub Whisperer. Cannot afford that. Well, maybe they can. Look at the tanks alive on Simple Tankers. They've still got 6 of the 7 standing, and that should be enough to clean this one up. Bobo and Housing Hippo. You're surrounded and outnumbered.
Big shot against Wallhacks from Bobo. Now Wallhacks and Pub Whisperer will press forward. Housing Hippo in the 5100. Engaging against Zach Koom in the IS-3. Zach Koom backs up a bit, tries to look for the angle on the 5100. Can't tell if he still has shots or not. Shot from the front, though, for 350. Barely left alive is Housing Hippo. The Pub Whisperer from around the corner tries to line up the shot against him. Does he have a shot? Nope, still on the run. He takes a shot from behind from Bobo, and Zach Koom falls to Housing Hippo, but there's ram damage from Pub Whisperer for the revenge. Bobo, last one alive, one shot, and he will fall, and that does it. Simple Tankers puts another point on the board. They are one battle away from reclaiming their spot in the Gold League. Doge squad still has some fight left in them, but now they have to go on the defensive side on Himmelsdorf. This is what it takes for these teams not only to fight through the qualifiers, but to be champions. They have to improve on these small little endeavors. And that 30 seconds to 45 seconds, Randall, where they're trying to figure out where the tanks are, you can't have that.
Yeah, it was happenstance a little bit that Simple Tankers went for a strategy that placed 3 of their big damage tanks way out of position. If they'd gone for it, it would have worked. But to their credit, Doge Squad did not know what was going on. They didn't know the layout of their opponent, and they could have done maybe a better job of scouting that. But with such a heavy lineup, I think maybe just choosing forward and going in a direction, deciding let's get the engagement and let's start it in a place where no matter what, we are going to have the advantage, and trust that your guys are going to be able to execute as they need in that situation.
It's a flip of the coin, and it's that type of meta right now where, hey, we saw a lot of guys move to the west, let's move to the west as well, compared to if they flipped the coin and said, let's do something crazy on this one, let's split through the courtyard, hug that L shape next to the inner district in order to scout that way, and then try to pincer against any type of tanks moving into that area. It leaves it a little bit more open for options. I'm not saying it's the best strategy, but it gives you more options compared to hugging the very west. Because guess what? Your opponent's going to be on the west side as well, and they're going to be expecting you to come that way. So you have to try to think a step ahead of your opponent. You recognize that if I was them, this is what I would do. It makes sense. How would we counter ourselves? And go from there.
Yeah. And Simple Tankers, I was so surprised at their ability to respond properly. I expected that with the 5100s, they were going to be out of position far too long, and they were out of position for a little bit, but I forgot about the mobility those tanks bring to this map. 5100s are a good choice if you want a flexible group to begin just taking your opponent apart on the flanks.
Definitely a good choice for city maps. We have always seen either IS-3s or 5100s and a certain mix in between. But using these lighter tanks for that scouting method that can still put some damage into perhaps an IS-3 or a 5100 caught off guard, that is important. Battle number 7 between these teams. Or is it 6?
It is battle number 6.
Battle number 6, excuse me, between Simple Tankers and Doge Squad on Himmelsdorf. What do you have for tanks?
Looks like we've got Simple Tankers bringing 3 5100s, 2 IS-3s, IS, T-29. Solid, good lineup. Doge Squad, 5100, 4 IS-3s, 2 Tiger 2s. Same deal as last time, going for Alpha. They need to get in close on a tank and just obliterate it very quickly, and that's how they need to get their lead. Other than that, I don't see too many other strategies that are going to work for them. The Tigers can snipe a little bit. The IS-3s aren't built for sniping, so trying to engage down these long alleyways is not going to work. It's going to have to be an in-your-face engagement.
Housing Hippo creeping up closer on top of the hill, along with the rest of his squad. And now we're seeing a little bit more hill play from both teams here. Simple Tankers, again, as the defenders, will win by destroying all the enemy tanks or waiting until the time is over, making sure that none of their flags have been captured.
And now look at the opening move from Doge Squad. I like this. They're taking into account what happened last time when they saw the 5100s come from the south and east of them. They recognized they went down the 8 line or they went over the hill. Let's try and engage on that. And now we've got a Tiger 1 moving up. Rick Owens takes 1 shell for 303, but that reveals that Pub Whisperer is there. I think Tofu Smurf and Angry White Guy have stayed hidden for now, but where you see 1 5100, there's likely to be backup.
Rolled in the IS-3 now pushing up, takes a shot to the front from Wallhack. Simple Tankers is counting every shot here. Every connected shot, every penetrating shot is 1 step closer to making it back in the Gold League, and every shot is 1 step backwards for Doge Squad to have to sign up again for qualifier number 2. Now they're splitting across the courtyard, as I mentioned before. Get into the mix and into a better spread on that map control when you know your enemy's going to be playing defensive on Himmelsdorf. It's going to be a tough thing to break, but it can be broken. We've seen teams do it in the past. 5 minutes left on the clock for both teams here as shots are firing towards Simple Tankers from Matsu Soul in that IS-3 along with Chili Coyote and Bobo. Simple Tankers has moved from a more split or spread out position, I should say, on the northern side, and they decided to all congregate on the west.
Yep. Regrouping, getting to that strong defensive position after getting a little early damage. They are in the lead in that respect. Rolled is down, Rick Owens is down a little bit, but they have taken 1 shell on Pub Whisperer. I think that's acceptable, though. He's not expected to be in the front. Some 5100s need to get into the right positions and get ready for the attack, because here they come. IS-3 is moving right up the middle.
Ready for that corner game. Will they move past or will they stop in their tracks? Looks like they're slowing down. This corner game, you want to try to move past if you can on 1 tank, even though it'll be sacrificial. It's a tough call to make, though. Chili Coyote gets shot on the side, trying to angle his armor to initiate a bounce, help generate a bounce, but ceasefires happen a bit for both teams here as they're trying to line up their targets.
A little bit of a standoff. You can't afford to peek out too far, or your opponent knows where to shoot.
Simple Tankers waiting for it as Doge Squad dances back and forth. Now, one of their teammates from the Doge Squad is still up on the hill.
Wow, okay, that's
Housing Hippo.
Okay, he's up there to cover, I think, the flank from the D-line. If Simple Tankers decided, let's break them out of this position, we'll send some guys south, that would be the counter. And that 5100 sitting up high is going to deal so much damage. We've seen it yesterday, we've seen it today, we've seen it in previous seasons, effectively. We won't see it here today, I think. Simple Tankers is going to hold position.
Roll to Matsu Soul. Pushing together in the front, and they're going to be joined by 2 more teammates. It's Bobo and Cod and the Tiger 1 and the IS-3. Matsu Soul and Rolled. Waiting for that corner game to initiate. Less than 3 minutes left for Doge Squad to get the win and to stay in the fight, or for Simple Tankers to get the win and to join us in the Gold League.
And real quick, Executus and the T-29 is heading south, which might put him out of position for this push, because here it comes, IS-3s and a Tiger 1 into a crossfire. Can they come out ahead? I have my doubts.
Pub Whisperer falls back. The Tiger 1's still alive. Not anymore. Tofu Smurf gets the kill. Rolled now low. Is going to fall back between his teammates. And look at this. You mentioned could he be out of the fight? Well, he could set up a beautiful flank. That T-29, that long range. It's going to be a little bit of a slow-firing tank, but it's enough. Well, enough to track Rolled at least. No damage on that shot. 3 tanks, the 3 amigos here, still holding the line as much as they can for Simple Tankers to focus on them as Chili Coyote in the IS-3 tries to get behind him. Now the push happening for Matsu, Sol, and Bobo. They want to focus on the IS. They want to take down Unknown One. However, they're going to get stopped in their tracks, and then they're going to change to try to save that HP on both sides, to share that HP. They get the kill. Pub Whisperer goes down. Housing Hippo takes a shot. Bobo's next. Minute and 46. Tanks are trading left and right here, Randall. Bobo goes down. Unknown One's the next one to fall.
All right, now we've got the 4v4. Executive still stands. He's got great damage to put out into the back of Matsu Sol and Housing Hippo. Zakum could survive, and there's a little ram from Executus, gets the kill. He's going to have a shot left over for Matsu Sol. However, Wallhacks is in a 2v1 situation, and Angry White Guy is on the reload. This is looking good for Simple Tankers. I think they can recover and take this one. Momentum right there in their favor.
And Wallhacks still holding the line against Rick Owens and Chili Coyote. Rick Owens is going to get behind him. Misses the shot on the fly from the Tiger 1. Wallhacks wants Chili Coyote. He wants that tank, and he's not able to get it. 360 damage on that one. The Tiger 1's going to be loaded in time. Rick Owens gets a kill against Wallhacks. 56 seconds left. Angry White Guy pushes up in the 5100. 1 tank left alive for the Doge squad. Simple Tankers lines up a shot. 1 HP left, and then Rick Owens falls. Simple Tankers does it. They are back in the Gold League in an impressive play against the Doge squad. Impressive from Simple Tankers.
Just very flexible. They set the tempo. They got the lead where it counted right at the beginning. Simple Tankers is looking good. That looked much better than what we've seen in the past few months. It looks like they're getting a new roster together that is slightly altered, but they're working on their fundamentals well, and their strategies are successful. And that's what counts right now.
Success is what counts.
Yes, it's their strategies I'm talking about,
yeah.
Not them having failed strategies, for example, and then executing incredibly well, and then it works out. Because we've seen teams where that happens. We've seen instances where a team will have a strategy which should not work, but they execute better than their opponent in fundamentals, and that's where they win. This is a situation where I like the strategy, and that and their fundamentals are working well together.
Yes. Yes, and that is how you create success.
Exactly.
Fundamentals and strategy.
Yeah.
And that can be applied to many, many different things, but especially here in World of Tanks, is that if you have an excellent strategy but people are not hitting their shots, it doesn't matter. You are not doing the necessary damage. And I feel that Simple Tankers is one of the teams that's going to take the most advantage from these new tanks because they always performed. They always performed better when they were on the move, when they had the agility. And when sometimes J Smooth was in the WZ-132 on mines compared to a 1390. They knew how to make that tank work. Just unfortunately, as we have seen with other teams, the consistency and players unavailable to play when they needed them due to sicknesses or other things is what hurt their team. But now they're back, and they have performed well. I think Zach Koom performed well as well.
Oh yes, he did. 3,000 damage in his IS-3, 3,187 to be exact. He was in the perfect position, lined up every shot when he needed, and his opponent, Doge Squad, walked straight into it. It was absolutely wonderful, and he was set up for success in that situation.
That is how you use your battle buddy.
Yeah. He's been known as the kind of player who is a great soldier and takes orders very well, but that isn't outspoken or loud. Mm-hmm. He just does his job very well, and he can be expected to execute on what you ask him to do. You give him an order, he does it. And that's how he works. And I like that on a team. That's something that every team needs. It doesn't need a bunch of chiefs and then 1 or 2 Indians. It needs 1 chief, or maybe 2. Maybe 2. You can get away with that depending on your calling
in case
style.
The chief is sick, then
yeah.
Then you can bring him up. If you want to sign up for the qualifiers, you can do so by visiting the website, worldoftanks.com/UC/tournaments, or click the link down below on our Twitch site. You want to sign up if you are interested and committed to playing World of Tanks, not just for the glory, not just for the gold, but a chance at a huge prize pool. The prize pool is bigger